A pest control owner walked me through his Google Ads math last month on a call. He pays about $150 every single time his phone rings from an advertisement on Google. Only 1 out of 6 of those calls turns into a new recurring pest control client. Run that math out and he's spending about $900 just to win a pest control client that's worth about $600 in the first year. That'll take 2 to 3 years depending on his OPEX to break even on the job. He literally stared at the number live on the screen and said, "This is stupid." He's totally right. And the thing is, the dashboard that he had live showed that everything was working. Green arrows, decent cost per lead, clicks everywhere, but the dashboard hides the one number that actually matters. By the end of this video, you'll know if your Google Ads account is an asset or just a treadmill and you're spending way too much money just to rent leads. The math takes about 30 seconds to run on your own company. Quick context, you know I'm not just BSing and guessing on these things. I run Sustained Media, and we've helped over 100 home service companies grow their revenue and book more jobs by showing up at the top of local search results, both via organic and Google paid search. So grab your full last month of spend and let's sit down together and walk through the numbers. And if you work with an agency, chances are they probably have not run these numbers with you, which is a bad sign. Okay, so I'm literally going to draw this out live for you just so you can kind of understand the math and what goes into it and how to calculate it. So the first thing that we're going to cover is your cost per lead and time ratio. I'm going to be breaking down organic search versus paid search and how they play out over time, as well as how they help you scale your company more sustainably. So cost per lead versus time. We're going to do SEO/organic is blue, and then we're going to do Google Ads in red. So we'll just call it PPC. So let's talk about the trend line for cost per lead with Google Ads. I mean, let's say it's that $120 mark per lead. And this could be industry agnostic. You know, you could be pest paying $40 a lead, lawn care paying $15 a lead, home remodeling paying $600 a lead, you know, HVAC paying $800 a lead for an install that's qualified. And the math is all the same. The trend line is the same. So Google Ads cost per lead or pay per click, which by the way, we do run for companies and we are in support of, but I'm just going to break down the numbers. The cost per lead goes like this. And the reason for that is 2 things. Number 1 is over time, when you spend more and scale the campaigns, typically you need to bid for less high intent keywords, so lower intent keywords, to reach a wider audience in order to get more total leads, but that means your average cost per lead will go up. So with the same amount of spend or more spend, you will get proportionally lower returns. Still more absolute returns, which is why companies still rely on paid search, because they want total search volume. They want total amount of leads, but the profitability on the leads, the ad efficiency goes down. And then you have organic search. And organic search is very, very weird in how it works, because depending on what you pay for organic, if you work with a firm or an agency like us, typically a good one will run you anywhere from like $3 to $5K a month for really good SEO. If you're doing it yourself, it takes time, effort. Maybe you're paying your techs for reviews, which is a part of SEO. But whatever the cost of SEO is, it's going to have a low return at the start, depending on where you start. If you have a bunch of reviews, you're already ranking well, cost per lead from SEO is probably going to be pretty good. But if you're not ranking well yet, you're starting new, or you're in a new market or a new GBP, here's how it looks. This could be, let's call it $500, okay? The trend line is going to look like this. Slowly but surely, it's going to even out. And there's this point called the breaking point, let's call it. So at the start of SEO, let's say this is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And as you go along, the cost per lead of SEO goes down because of the compounding nature of organic search. If you're unfamiliar, organic search pretty much relies on the fact that you can manipulate your website, your Google business profile, and then other information out there on the internet in order to influence who Google shows as the top result. So get this, you do not have to pay to rank at the top technically, unless you work with an agency. So at the start, it's expensive. Let's say you're spending $4K a month on SEO with an agency. And for the first few months, you get a few leads a month. Let's call it 5 leads a month, whatever. So cost per lead is high. But as we scale down and as you start ranking higher for those terms, more of them over a larger service area, the cost per lead starts dropping exponentially, actually. So the trend line can even sometimes look like this. Boom. And so the point of this is to show you that there is a time where the organic cost per lead evens out with the paid cost per lead. And then after that point, typically it goes even further down. And so, you know, month 8, month 9, month 12, whatever, depending on how competitive your market is, this line, I'm going to put it in yellow, you might plateau with organic. But the cool thing about organic is you can pretty much continue to rank, expand out because there's always more market share. So this cost per lead trend line will still continue to go down, and you can eventually hit a point where 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, and the companies that did this 5 to 10 years ago are at that point. Organic cost per lead is near zero. We're talking sub $20 cost per lead, depending on the market, of course. And so this point is when organic search becomes your highest return, highest LTV to CAC ratio, highest ROAS investment that you've made. So why doesn't every company just go out there and do SEO? Well, it's actually just a question of when do you hit this point? How long does it take to get to that point where the organic cost per lead is the same or cheaper than the paid search cost per lead? And that's the money question. That's the question that I get all the time on consultation calls, all the time from home service owners. How long to see results? How long to break even? How long to be profitable? How long to beat our ads? And there's ways to calculate it, right? We can do projections, but there's no way to accurately pinpoint where that point is because every market's different. And even though we've helped over 100 home service businesses rank and hit this point and make SEO their most profitable channel, we still can't say for a fact that it will take 4 months. It'll take 2 years. We can't speak on that. We can give you projections, but that's the inherent risk with something like SEO. It takes time. And there's so many factors at play. How many reviews you're getting, how many website pages you're putting out, how competitive your market is, how many links all your competitors have, all that sort of stuff. But this trend shows you why paid search will always go up. Because I'm not sure if I touched on this earlier. The second point and the second reason why paid search goes up is the cost per click by Google, the CPC, is set by Google. It's not set by you. It's set by the competition in your market, plus how affluent the market is and how much Google wants to charge you per click. You do not have any influence over that. So the cost per click for Google to be a profitable company, which by the way, they've recently reported I think it's their first unprofitable year or quarter where they don't have a lot of free cash. They have very little free cash. Don't quote me on that. I just saw it on Twitter. But the point here is they have to raise their advertising costs year over year, month over month, even day over day for them to continue to make money out of this massive platform they built. And so you have no control over that. You can have the best landing page, but cost per click will always go up. Whereas SEO, at a certain point, once you hit this inflection point, you own your rankings. You're the one who decides how far you rank. And so therefore, it's the highest returning channel long term. So play it out with that pest control company. Let's say that their cost per lead with SEO at the start's $500. They get 6 leads a month, 10 leads a month. Let's say that their paid cost per lead's at $150. For them to break even, it might be month 4, month 6, month 8. But after that, their cost per lead can sink down to something like $10, $5, $2 even, depending on how much market share you own. Let's run the same process, but with ROAS. If you're not familiar, return on ad spend. This is the most important metric. Cost per lead doesn't really matter if you don't have ROAS or a strong LTV to CAC ratio. So let's talk about the second nature and the second most important metric to understand, because if you want to actually grow your company, you need to know how these channels are going to play out long term, how you scale them effectively. So take SEO or organic. At the start, the ROAS on SEO is going to be slow. It's going to be low because you might be spending $800 a lead and you return $200 per lead or whatever. You might be negative. You will be negative probably. So you start here, but then as time goes on, you start to compound and then boom, it just hit. Maybe not straight up, but it's more of like this very steady organic kind of just almost exponential line where you get outsized returns for the inputs, but it just takes time, right? So as time goes on, your rankings start to compound and then boom, this trend, you just start shooting up. With ads, the return is interesting, right? The ROAS is very interesting because over time, it works kind of like this. And some people might say it works like this. Some people might say it works like this because it goes up and down, fluctuations, and they're all kind of right. But the general principle is that this is what the trend line looks like because the more you spend, the higher the cost per lead typically, the lower the return, the lower the ROAS. As you scale an ad account, you want to spend more money. Again, you're going to target lower intent keywords. You're going to have lower intent campaign setup. Maybe you're running ads for a new service because you're maxed out on that other service on ads and it's a lower ticket service. There's lower return. And so you get a return that goes slowly down over time. So you might be wondering, okay, why do people spend on PPC? Why do people run ads? Like, what is the allure to it? Why does every big shop run, 6 figures a month? Some of them run 7 figures a month on Google ads. The reason for that is because of the consistency and the absolute volume. So I put together this basic chart that pretty much outlines the important things here. So with ads, cost per customer rises yearly. It goes only up, right? That's not in our control. You stop paying on ads, the phone stops ringing. It's definitive. You have to rent the leads. The second you stop paying rent, you got to go. Instead of owning your house, when you're done paying out that mortgage, that initial investment period, you own it flat out. You don't have to pay rent anymore. You got utilities, upkeep, all that stuff. But so the dollar dies the same day, right? There's no real compounding nature behind most advertising platforms. The sponsor tag is also skipped on a lot of search results. Think about when you search for something and you search for it and you see the sponsored results at the top. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna skip past that. I don't want the ads. I want the people who are trusted, who show up first. There you got it. Boom. That's why people choose SEO. I don't have exact numbers, but there's, especially in younger generations, there's a lot of people who will skip past the sponsored section. And then guess what? With ads, your competition, if a big PE company comes in the market, or there's, some huge roll up in the market, or someone just wants to go crazy on ads for some reason out of nowhere, they can drive the bid price up, right? If they want to bid more to rank more, boom, now you got to pay more to compete with them. And that can happen on the daily, which is why we manage ad accounts daily. And it's why we still run ads, because it's a great lead source for absolute volume. But there's inherent downsides. And then every 24 months, you look back and you just rented something. You just paid money, it vanished into thin air. You got a return, but it didn't scale with your investment. With SEO, the cost falls per month, and this is a good down arrow. The cost to acquire a customer goes down over time the more you invest in SEO, pretty much infinitely. The leads keep coming consistently once you start ranking. Now, I will say it takes time to rank. Again, some markets 2 to 3 months, some markets 24 to 48 months, depending on the competition. But every dollar you invest builds kind of this asset that just goes up. The map pack, which is the top 3 local pack with the GBPs, the Google business profiles that shows up organically, that's a map pack. That's where over 70% of all clicks go to from the search results page. That's organic. That's SEO. So if you want to rank where 70% of people are clicking and trusting people because they're the highest quality leads, because they see your photos, your reviews, they trust you, you want to show up there. And then also, if you invest and you put your balls on the table and you take the risk that is inherently investing in SEO because it takes time for a return, it takes a lot of time for people to catch up. And a lot of people get demotivated along that process, as you can imagine. And month 24, month 48, assuming your market's not insane, you can have a near zero CAC or a very low CAC, which means you get outsized returns, which means you can have a very profitable business, which means that you have really good enterprise value because your return on marketing is incredible and it's organic. People trust your brand. So don't take this to mean that SEO is better than ads. I did not say that. But these principles are the reason why there is an inherent difference between scaling with SEO and scaling with ads. If you're a $2 million shop and you want to get to $20 million one day and you do it on ads, you're going to have to front a lot of capital, have really good cash collection cycles. So if you're in a high ticket home service industry, without pulling a credit card loan or a bank loan to just front money on these ads or eating away at your bank account, you're going to have tricky scaling. And then you rent the leads. So there's no real compounding return. With SEO, it takes a lot of time to rank sometimes to hit that breaking point where you're profitable. But once you do, it's one of the most scalable channels because you can get an exponentially higher return the more time you're in the game. Both are incredible. All of our 8-figure shops that we work with run both, and they heavily invest in both, but they have unique pros and cons to each of them. If you run a $2 million plus home service company and you want to scale higher and you want to get more revenue and more book jobs from Google search results and AI search results, book a consultation with us at the first link in the description below. I'll jump on a call with you, audit your market. We'll talk through these numbers together, and we'll put together a scaling plan that's tailored to your business and what you need in order to get to the revenue goal you want to. If we're not a good fit, I'll tell you. See you in the next one.